Dorothy the Glutton. In the lively town of Grove, there was a young girl named Dorothy who was famous for two things: her insatiable long throat and her big size. Dorothy's throat seemed to stretch like a rubber band whenever she saw something delicious. One sunny afternoon, Dorothy's family was throwing a grand birthday party for her younger brother Max. The house was filled with cheerful music, colorful balloons, and most importantly, a table laden with all kinds of treats. There were cakes, cookies, and a particularly large jar of sweet candies that Dorothy's mother had placed on a high shelf in her room for safekeeping. As the party continued, Dorothy's mind, or rather her throat, kept drifting towards the jar of sweets. She tried to ignore it, but the temptation was too strong. She decided to sneak away from the party and get herself some candy. Dorothy tiptoed down the hallway. She quietly entered her mother's room and spotted the jar on the top shelf. With a determined look, Dorothy reached up and managed to grab the jar. She quickly opened it and put her hand into the jar. She took a fistful of sweets, but her hand got stuck in the jar. Dorothy's hand was wedged inside the jar. She tugged and pulled, but the more she tried to get her hand out, the more it seemed stuck. Her hand was full of candy, and it was as if the jar had decided to claim her as its own. Desperate, Dorothy called out for help. "Help! Help! I'm stuck!" she cried, but her cries were barely audible over the loud music and chatter from the party. At the party, Max and their friends heard the faint cries and decided to investigate. They followed the sound and discovered Dorothy in the middle of the room with her hand stuck in the jar. Everyone gathered around trying to figure out what was going on. "Dorothy, what on earth are you doing?" Max asked, trying hard not to laugh. Dorothy's face was red with embarrassment as she mumbled through the jar. "I am stuck." The crowd burst into laughter. Dorothy's mother suggested, "Maybe if you let go of the sweets, your hand will come out, honey." Dorothy hesitated, but she realized it was indeed the solution. She reluctantly started dropping the sweets one by one. Every time Dorothy released a candy, the jar seemed to loosen up. The more sweets she let go, the easier it became for her to free her hand. The room was filled with giggles and laughter as she drops the candy one by one. Finally, with the last piece of candy falling out, Dorothy's hand slipped free from the jar. She looked around at all the laughing faces, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. The crowd continued to chuckle, but Dorothy's mom patted her on the back. "Well, at least you are okay. Just try not to let your love for food get you into more trouble." Dorothy nodded. She promised herself to be more careful in the future. She knew her love for food was too much and promised to work on it. However, as luck would have it, trouble was just around the corner. A few days later, as Dorothy was coming back from school, she was approached by a group of strangers offering snacks that looked far too tempting. Not realizing their true intentions, Dorothy followed them for more, munching on the snacks they offered. Unbeknownst to Dorothy, these strangers were kidnappers who used snacks to lure unsuspecting kids. As Dorothy enjoyed the snacks, she was led away, and soon she found herself in a place she didn't recognize. Back at home, Dorothy's parents were frantic when they discovered she was missing. They began searching the neighborhood, calling out her name and asking everyone if they had seen their daughter. The sound of Groove came together, united in their concern for Dorothy's safety. Hi everybody, this is Ginia. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to like and share. Thank you. When Dorothy found herself in the kidnappers' hideout, her love for food had already led her into trouble. The attic was cluttered with dusty old furniture and snack wrappers. Dorothy looked so scared and started to cry as the kidnappers tied up her hand. But after a moment, despite the chaos, her attention shifted to the large stash of candy sitting on a table in the corner. The kidnappers, two bumbling fellows, were not very experienced at being villains. They started to ask Dorothy questions but noticed Dorothy's obsession with the candy. They looked at each other, then at the table filled with candy, and smiled at themselves. They set up the table with an array of snacks. Okay, Dorothy, Bob announced. If you answer our question, we'll allow you to pick up a sweet from the table without using your hands, of course. Dorothy's eyes sparkled at the challenge. She quickly stood on her feet and nodded excitedly. The kidnappers laughed menacingly. They set the snacks and started asking Dorothy about her parents and address, which Dorothy was quick to answer so she could pick up a snack. The kidnappers seemed lost in the game as they laughed at Dorothy's struggle to pick up food with her mouth. They seemed to lose track of time. Just then, Dorothy heard familiar voices from outside. Her parents and the search party were close enough. Dorothy, her mom called, her voice growing louder. We are here to rescue you. Dorothy's face lit up with hope. Mom, I'm in here, she yelled, her voice echoing through the attic, muffled by the candy mess. When Dorothy's family burst into the attic, they were greeted by a chaotic scene. Dorothy with a mouth full of sweets and the kidnappers who looked more like candy-clad clowns than criminals. The room was a disaster zone with different wraps of food all around them. Dorothy, her mom cried, rushing over and hugging her. We were so worried. I'm okay, mom, Dorothy said, laughing despite her sticky situation. These kidnappers were more interested in making a mess than kidnapping. The kidnappers, now completely embarrassed, were taken away by the police. Dorothy's family was relieved to have her back and promised her a special celebration for her safe return. Back at home, Dorothy's parents sat her down to discuss the importance of moderation and being cautious. Dorothy, her mother called gently, it's important to enjoy things in moderation and not let your cravings get out of control. They added, and always be careful with strangers, especially if they offer something that seems too good to be true. Dorothy nodded, truly understanding the lessons she had learned. She felt sorry for herself and what happened. The end. Moral lessons. Be cautious of strangers. Moderation is key. Think before acting. Turn mistakes into positives, just like Dorothy used her love for food to distract the kidnappers. Hi, please subscribe, like, and share for more stories. Thank you.